Hi there everyone, and welcome to our second Reflections of the Week. We're looking this week at characteristics or features where we've learned something from lockdown, and as lockdown continues to be released and we get back to some kind of normality, are there things of value that we want to take with us. And last reflections, or yesterday, we were looking at things being quieter during lockdown and us having some time for ourselves, and even just to spend a moment in the presence of God. And we looked at Psalm 46:10, "Be still and know that I am God," as a verse we want to take with us into the return to normality, that we try to get quiet moments for ourselves during the day, or at least once a day anyway. Today's theme is simpler. In so many ways, life has been simpler during lockdown. And one good feature of that was in relation to food. Now, of course, there was the panic to begin with, especially over toilet rolls, where it seemed impossible to get toilet rolls locally, and there was a big run on them in the supermarkets. Thankfully, that madness passed, but there was the same concern about food in general. And for most of us during lockdown, restricted by travel, we shopped locally, which meant, of course, that whereas some of us might be used to a variety of shops and different brands of things, we were kind of restricted in what we could buy, but that was no bad thing. Allied to that, there were great stories about people learning to make do with what they had, being creative in the kitchen, taking up baking, for example, starting to grow food in their own gardens. These were wonderful things that I hope we don't lose completely as we go back to normal. And of course, the fun in the kitchen was, for many of us, going through the cupboards and using up stuff that had been there for ages that was still in its date. Some of it was out of date, but we could still eat it. And that was a great experience of being able to do that. Because in so many ways, when we think of the Lord's Prayer, and I discussed this last week or a couple of weeks ago in Reflections, give us this day our daily bread. Just thankful for the food that we have. And I don't know about you, but certainly in the manse, as we kind of emptied the cupboards bit by bit, and we were looking at various things and then trying to combine them in a way that would be appetizing, it was good fun. And I know that many of you had that experience as well. Allied to that, it must have reduced the amount of waste that all of us are used to having or creating. The common figure, certainly over the years that I've been interested in food issues, has been around, certainly over £400 a year per household, sometimes as far as or as high as £480. Now, I have no idea how they calculate that figure. But if that's true, then what an overindulgent society we were, and probably still are. But during this lockdown, I would imagine that rate of waste has come down dramatically, because we've gone through the cupboards, we've ate more simply, we've lived more simply, and we've been grateful for that because it's made us consider these things, reflect on these things. And that's been the beauty of lockdown. As we were thinking yesterday about the need to recapture and going into lockdown being removed, times of quiet, and remember that we need that for our well-being. So too, I think we need to remember times when we can live more simply. And what I suggest that we do is that as lockdown ceases or gets eased and we go back to some kind of normality, we'll stray back again, maybe slowly, but eventually into bad habits again. So periodically, why don't we remind ourselves of that? And every so often, do the foraging in the cupboards. Just as our ancestors had to forage the land to get food, and they ate what they could from the land, so too we eat what we can from our cupboards until we empty them, and then have a big shop. Now, I'm not suggesting that we can do that all the time, because you know what we're like. We'll get back to the bad habits. It'll sneak in. There'll be that drift back to normality. And all I'm saying is checks and balances. Let's remember the good things that emerged in lockdown and try to cultivate good habits. And just every now and then say, okay, we've had a big shop. Let this be the last one for a wee while. Let's see how long we can get by on the stuff that's in the cupboard. And just do that every now and then, consciously. And if we do it consciously, then we'll be cultivating gratitude and realising how fortunate we are to have the food that's there in our cupboards and in our fridges and in our freezers, for that matter, as well. And that means we won't take things for granted, which is so important living in the modern world where there's an abundance of things, lots of things that we take for granted. And for the spiritual path, that's not good for us. It's good to cultivate gratitude. So let's do that. Let's do that together. That as we go forward into the future, remember to have times and moments where we just say, right, this week or for the next few days or even just today, let's live simply. As a remembrance of what lockdown brought to us, the value it brought to us. And one of these values, things that are really important, is the idea of simple living. Our world needs more of that in so many ways, especially in relation to climate change and all the rest. We don't need wastefulness, we don't need overindulgence, but it's down to us. We can't criticise other people if we ourselves don't practice it. So there's a wee thought for today, that as we journey on, let's remember the simpler side of life is sometimes something that we should turn to. As always, thank you for watching and listening, and I'll see you tomorrow.